Hey, thanks for clicking on the video. Today we are taking a look at a meta hunter build that just works. This build can output the best DPS in the entire game currently, and it is actually by quite a large margin. But while being a monster for nuking bosses inside of things like raids and dungeons, the neutral in this build is just as good too. And the flexibility you have to swap between either one is unparalleled, making this build a no-brainer pick for endgame content. Also, as the last little bit to get you hooked on this build, if you saw this thumbnail, it isn't bait. My buddy, who actually works at Bungie, brought me onto this build, so it is quite literally Bungie approved. Now, before diving too deep into this build, as usual, I really would appreciate it if you did subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of 2026, and I know most of you guys already watch my stuff, so do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. And if you are feeling really generous, then you can also join my Discord, link down below, which I'm trying to grow. But with that said, this isn't all about me. To help you, there are also dim links down in the description. That way you can take this build for yourself really easily. There are also timestamps down there, so you can skip around the video and get your desired information with no hassle. I'm out here just trying to help us both. Now, the way that we're actually going to start this build is by letting you know there is effectively two forms of it. We have the neutral game, which takes up most of our time, and that's the bulk of this video will showcase. And then we have the DPS version of this build, which is what really gives this build value in endgame content. Again, there are timestamps down below for your viewing pleasure. But starting with where both forms of this build take off, we're going to begin with our exotic armor piece. The one we're running is the newest and maybe strongest hunter exotic in the game right now, Fortune's Favor. This exotic perk reads, after landing a final blow while at full health or when out of combat for an extended duration, your shields will slowly recharge into an overshield. When you have an overshield, your weapons gain increased accuracy, stability, handling, and damage against combatants. And final blows will grant a short period of increased mobility once the overshield is depleted. Now functionally, you probably know how this exotic works. It is really popular after all, but we effectively have infinite free void overshields, which, as a reminder, will give us 70% damage resist when active. I'm fairly certain, outside of blocking with swords and using supers, this is the highest DR in the game, so we have that as an advantage. But the way we get these void overshields is really simple. If we are out of combat, then it will automatically apply itself to us, and while we are in combat, any kill while at full health will begin to apply that overshield to us. This means, with ways to regen our health, like Devour, we can always be giving ourselves some overshield. Also, kills while we have that overshield usually means that we have full health, so that just means even more overshield. But while that on its own is incredible, the next part of this exotic is what makes it truly meta. And that's while we have a void overshield, our outgoing weapon damage is just flat out increased. For bullet weapons, that is 10 to 15%, with the higher percent on higher tiers of enemies like bosses. And then for heat weapons, that is a 15 to 20% damage bonus. Again, the higher damage increase against higher tiers of enemies. But this damage increase assists in neutral, as we can just kill things easier, and it is massively increasing our boss DPS too, because more damage is more damage. Now, coming out of our exotic armor piece, we're going to take a look at our exotic weapon that we use for the neutral game. In this build, the Practic Blade works best. This is an extremely popular weapon choice, and that is for good reason. It does good damage, it makes you invincible, and it has seemingly infinite ammo. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the saber and how to build it, because you can really use whatever you want aside from one single option. We want to use the Impact Core, as this will apply a subclass debuff to whatever it hits depending on our equipped super. In this build, that ends up being a Void Weaken, which this causes enemies hit by our blade to take 15% more damage from all sources. So our already lethal sword is even more lethal. I should also recommend though, we can use Hyperblade to block with our saber to become amplified, which is effectively another 15% damage resist, which is multiplicative with our 70% from the exotic boots. But the main reason we use the Practic Blade is to synergize with our subclass. So taking a look at that, starting with our super, we're going to use Shadow Shot Mobius Quiver. This super will debuff enemies to take 30% increased damage tethered by it, but it also outputs incredible damage now. After casting once, outgoing damage increases bow type damage, including the super, which is kind of a bow. More details though on how this is broken in the DPS section. Again, timestamps. As for the rest of our abilities, our class ability is Gambler's Dodge to regen our melee, although with his sword out 90% of the time, it doesn't actually matter. We're not going to be meleeing. Our actual melee is Snare Bomb because that's the only option. And then our grenade is Vortex Grenade because to me, this just feels the best inside of PvE. But then on to our first aspect, we will be using Stylish Executioner. This aspect states that we go invisible whenever killing a void debuffed enemy. While invisible, we also get increased melee damage and stuff, but like we don't really care, to be honest. What we like is the invis on demand. And I'm not going to pretend like you don't see where this is going. In game, when using our lightsaber, every melee kill we get with it is going to make us invisible, because every melee hit from the saber weakens. Combining that with the void overshield that we are getting on kills, and we're basically invincible as we run around the battlefield, scoring kills, coming in and out of invis. But what do we pair with Stylish Executioner? Well, our second option is actually On the Prowl. This is one of our newest aspects and says that whenever we go invisible, we mark a random target for execution. Whenever that target is killed by us or a teammate, it releases a cloud of smoke that weakens, but also makes anyone that goes through it invisible, and killing the enemy gives a chunk of ability energy to all of us. In game, taking a look at this real quick, when we go invis from a saber kill, we can see this marker appearing on a random enemy. Then if we run over and kill them, they explode into smoke, which we can enter to go invisible, and the kill, of course, does give us a bit of energy too. This aspect isn't super powerful, but these are nice bonuses to have, and it even fulfills some type of team support. Now, before moving on over subclass, we have our Fragments. First up is Echo of Harvest. This causes weakened kills to spawn orbs and a Void Breach for class ability energy. Then we have Echo of Starvation, so picking these up gives us Devour. This is our main source of health regen. Then Echo of Persistence, so our void buffs last longer. Void overshields are infinite with our boots, so mainly just to extend Devour. And then Echo of Undermining, so that our grenade can also weaken, need that. And then lastly, Echo of Reprisal to fast track our super generation whenever we're getting kills while surrounded, which is like all the time. Now, continuing on, what other weapons should we use in this build? I find myself always using Eterna alongside a second sword with Eager Edge for the less important activities. But in DPS settings, that heavy weapon is always a good shout crossbow. More on that in a second though. Again, there are timestamps down below if you're really curious. Now, on from weapons, we have armor. In this build, the stats we want are super and weapons, and please don't make fun of my hunter. I do really need to get farming. But these stats, the ones that we're focusing on, are both going to help us the most during DPS and allow us to deal more damage and spam supers in neutral. And then a third focus, if you have the bandwidth, would be grenade. Don't look at my stats. Then for the armor mods, we have the following. On the helmet, we run a kinetic siphon for orbs for our saber, a special finder, and a special scout for more green. On the arms, we run 2 firepower to get orbs from grenades when we throw them, and a bolstering detonation to get some dodge energy back from grenade damage. On the chest, we have resists and a kinetic ammo generation mod. Then on the legs, we run a better already for health regen upon picking up an orb, innovation to help a bit with throwing grenades, and a scavenger for your non-saber weapon. Then on the class item, we have a special finisher for ammo on command, a powerful attraction to pick up orbs when we dodge, and a proximity ward to do finishers in safety. Now, lastly, before the gameplay loop and the DPS section, we have our artifact. Within, we use the sword suite of perks. Kinetic Synthesis helps give us infinite ammo by just dealing damage with our lightsaber. Riposte is a perk that allows us to stun unstops with our saber, which also stuns barriers, so we get 2 in 1. Then Combination Argent Blade increases our damage and charge rate. And then Sword Storm combo gives us damage and a blinding aura when doing the lightsaber combo. But we can also dip into Void on the artifact with Power from Pain for redundant safety, Devour activation, Singularity Blade to have redundancy on Weaken, and then Void Infestation to have our Weaken actually spread with the tracking projectiles. And you heard redundancy a lot, which kind of means this build is pretty future-proofed. Now, to quickly cover the gameplay loop and then showcase the DPS behind this thing, to begin, it all starts by activating our exotic boots and getting a Void Overshield. That is most easily done by doing literally nothing. You will start most fights with one since it regens out of combat, but once we have that, just swing away with the saber. You're getting increased damage thanks to our boots, and that first kill will make us invisible and drop an orb to give us Devour. We'll also mark an enemy for us to kill to get some ability energy back if we want to do that. But now that the loop has started, you can run around and slay out with the saber. Kills make us immediately invisible and give us an overshield, making us hard to hit and tough to take down. Throw grenades and dodge around to pick up orbs and use your super when you feel like it. It does a lot of damage and we get it back really fast in this build. But that's kinda it. Use your non-saber weapon against bosses or anything that's kind of outranging you. But other than that, all it is spamming your sword and reaping the benefits. The infinite void buffs and great weapons paired together do just make this build an all-rounder. But now, to end the video, we have the DPS specifics. I'll have a separate dim link down below that you can copy, but the idea here is making use of the synergy that Shadow Shot has with bow weapons, and the A Good Shout crossbow, which is effectively a heavy bow, which is now buffed by our super. It's just a fantastic combo. If we get a Good Shout with the Envious Arsenal perk on it, we pair it with Wither Horde, which is an easy swap off from our lightsaber, and then you have any weapon in your secondary slot, we now have a semi-automatic crossbow. And this DPS value you're seeing, yeah, that's going to be up there with the highest in the entire game. Now what's great is that when you eventually run out of ammo on your crossbow, you can just walk up to the boss, pick up all your bolts, and redo the entire thing. It is just too good, and it is a blast melting bosses with it. And of course, the proof is in the pudding. I out DPS'd my entire team, including my teammate Llama, who, despite what he says, isn't great at the game. Anyways, that's the whole build, I think. It's got amazing neutral, the best boss damage. Where could you go wrong? Remember that there are dim links down below, and that I'm trying to hit 50k subs by the end of 2026. So help me out, it would mean a lot. With that, as usual, want to support me, support the channel, a like, a comment, a subscription, joining my Discord, hyping the video, if you know what that is. It goes a very long way. Want to support me, support the channel, but you can't think of a comment. Comment down below, roadmap. Very off topic, but we're gonna manifest a roadmap, and if we all type it, surely we get one this week. And with that, as usual, I hope you are having a great day, and I hope to see you around.